is the Deron Harris Podcast. Here's your host, Deron Harris.
What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the show. I'm Deron Harris. This is my podcast, and thank you for joining me today. Today's episode, I'm continuing my series on Men's Mental Health Month. If you didn't know, June is Men's Mental Health Month. So the last two podcasts, I've been talking about issues with men's mental health, but this podcast is not about what's wrong or what's broken with us. This one today is about really what really holds us together. So if you like me and live with like depression and anxiety and shit like that, or any mental illness really, you know how heavy this shit gets. It gets heavy, quick, fast, and in a fucking hurry. And there's not a lot of time for us to do anything about it. And a lot of times we just kind of spiral down this hole where a lot of times we sit there. But today, I want to talk about the people that help us carry the weight. People that help us cope. People that help us, live another day, man, so to speak, really. I mean, like, for real. I want to talk about our caregivers. The caregivers, the lovers, the friends, the ride or dies, the mothers and fathers, wives, kids, the ones who stay. That's what I want to talk about today. This is for y'all. So just being here, just being in their presence is nurturing. I mean, just being like my wife, for instance, just being in her presence. She is, absolutely outstanding when it comes to helping me cope with things that I may be going through on a day-to-day basis. Like anything, it doesn't really even matter what it is. My wife has watched me just totally like suck myself into the couch, just back down in there, can't get out, don't want to come out. I mean, she's been there. She holds my hand, she wipes my tears when I cry. My mother is, her and my mom, it's like they like a tag team. They like the tag team, Wonder Twins when it comes to helping me cope with, things on a day-to-day basis. And they get help. They get help from my producer and my best friend, the guy who actually is producing my podcast now, Jay Yandel. I talk to Jay every day. We talk every single day. And that is very huge, because there are days that I don't really want to pull it together. There's days I don't want to do my podcast. There's days I don't want to go outside. There's days I don't want to get out of bed. There's days I don't want to eat. There's days I don't drink shit. Sometimes I don't take a fucking shower for 4 or 5 days. And these people stick around through all my funk and all of that shit. They stay, and they're not moved. They're not fazed by it. It's their presence in my life that has become, I guess, this stable, what's the word I'm looking for? This point of stabilization, this area of peace, this area where I can, cling to the buoy for just a minute and kind of look around the ocean, this raging ocean around me. And I got a couple of minutes and somebody else to help me make sense of it, or help me, find more calm waters. They play a really big part. I'm very, very grateful for this. And to be quite honest, I take medication and it doesn't always work. But 9 times out of 10, sitting down and talking to my mother, or my wife or somebody, it's like, one of my homies, one of my close personal people, man, that really kind of, grounds me back to where I should be. I mean, they are magical people, man. They remember who we are. Now think about this. They remember who we are when we forget who we are. And we do that a lot. We spiral into a hole. We forget what we actually do, who we are, what we mean to people, the things that we've accomplished. We forget that. That goes out the window. And not only that, sometimes we don't forget it. We don't care about it. But they care. And they remember who we are. They help us grasp back that piece of reality when we spiral off into, I don't want to come out world. They're important people in our lives. And a lot of times we take them for granted. And this podcast, is for them. I didn't want to take them for granted because they are super responsible. My therapist, I really kind of consider my therapist to be my friend. Even though I know she's my therapist, but, I really kind of do because, she listens to me talk about anything. She doesn't, and just like my wife and my mother, I know she's trained to have, good advice or advice in general, but, I believe that my therapist really connects with me. I really believe that she understands a lot of the struggles. I was going to therapy. I stopped going to therapy, and I went back to therapy, and she's like, right back on it, right back on the horse. And she told me, if you get to the point where you can't stand up, you start struggling, call me. We'll get right back on the program, and we'll hammer it down until it's gone, or until you can cope. Because I have major depressive disorder, and it doesn't go away. It just don't go away. I keep it forever. So that means that ever so often, and it used to be a lot more frequent than it has been lately. I just go into, a depressive state, and I can be there for a couple of days. I can be there for a couple months. It's nothing that I can really do about it. But there is. But sometimes there's not. And in those instances, these people play a very, very, very important part in my life. My best friend is the producer of this show. He has seen me not want to do my podcast. He has seen me crawl at my absolute worst. Out in the mud, in the rain, crying, mad at the world. And he's down here on his knees with me, crying, mad at the world, but with his arms around me and letting me know that I'm not down here by myself. And that is huge. It has been huge since I've met this guy. We've been friends over 30 years, coming on 40-something years. It's rare that you have people in your life that just accept, your flaws unconditionally. My wife, I got to hand it to her, man, because she just really didn't know. And really, honestly, I didn't know what was happening. I just thought that, I was just put here to suffer. That's what I thought. But I didn't know what was happening until I was diagnosed. Once I got diagnosed, it made perfect sense. But even before I was diagnosed, my wife, she had already made the decision that I'm her guy. And I'm going to be her guy forever. And it doesn't matter what I go through and what I suffer through, that she's here to help me not suffer through that, or to go through it with me. And she does. She goes to my appointments with me. She'll sit and wait in the lobby. And if I try to weasel out or wiggle out, no. There's no such thing as getting out of therapy at my house. There's no such thing as not taking your medicine, because if I don't, I get screamed on. And I don't really enjoy that. So, but I do fall, and when I do, she picks me up and she reminds me of who I am. She makes me, and not just her, my mother even. My mother, my children, my therapist. There's so many people in my life that I've come to the realization that I receive care from, not just my therapist, but people in my life, the people who decided to stay, the people who decided to tough out. You know, when I lashed out, and I didn't mean to, said horrible, heinous shit, but somehow they managed to understand and realize that this is not who I am. That's not who this person is. That's not my man, or that's not my son, or that's not my husband. That's not my dad. You know, it's I commend them for being able to recognize that, because there's been lots of people in my life that I'll just put it straight out there, that they didn't understand. They couldn't see. And although my wife and I, and until I wasn't diagnosed, she didn't know, but she understood completely. If you get what I mean, if you know what I'm saying, she just understood where nobody else did, or really nobody else cared to. And part of that is because I believe what she did is she stripped herself away to put herself in my position, even though she's been through some trauma herself. And, you know, we're getting ready to do the same thing on the other side. I'm getting ready to be a caregiver for my wife, because we're going to get to the bottom of the things that bother her as well. You know, folks, there's a lot of us who suffer from things, and there are a lot of people in our lives that are very unlikely caregivers, very unlikely saviors to people who need to be saved. And people say, oh, I don't need saving. Man, you'd be surprised, because I used to think the same thing. I thought it was great. I thought it was perfect. I thought there was really nothing wrong. I thought I was just running up on bad patches and et cetera, et cetera. It turned out it was major depressive disorder. It was post-traumatic stress disorder. It was ADHD. It was extreme anxiety. I'm affected by all of those things. And sometimes they hit all at fucking once. And that makes sometimes the medicine I take, that shit is null and void. And the medicine, it doesn't talk to me. It doesn't help me off the ledge. It just dulls some things. You know, it's necessary at this moment. But what's even more necessary than that are these people in my life who care for me. I'm going to take a quick, fast break, and when I come back, I'm going to get down some more with some caregivers, man. I love y'all, man. This is Deron Harris Podcast. I'll be right back.
The Podcast Playground. Hooray!
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, y'all, what's up? Welcome back to the show. We talking about caregivers today. Talking about mine in particular. And I'm talking about caregivers that you may have as well. So, let me get back to my notes here, because I have to write things down, because like I said, I suffer from ADHD, and if I don't have things in front of me, you know, I kind of get off track and I'll speak in tangent. I'll break off into a tangent and be someplace else. And like I am now. So, but I wanted to ask everybody, have you ever had somebody that loved you so deeply that they go out and study what you're going through? They go out and actively challenge themselves without your knowledge to take on how to understand what this person that I'm with is going through. My wife is a financial analyst. That's what she does. She researches this shit, and she says I believe she would have made probably the best private eye in the fucking history of the game. But she will sit there and research symptoms. I mean, of all kinds of shit. She'll come with some shit and be like, here, take this. And I'll have to ask her, hey, babe, what did you read on the internet? I have to ask her, but the thing and the thing that she does is she first cares. She cares. She gives a shit about what the fuck is happening with my man. It's not to run. It's to turn head on into it. That's incredible. Because I'll tell you, man, I'm not easy. I'm not easy. I'm all over the place. A lot. But because I have a caregiver like my wife, somebody who's willing to do the research when I can't focus to do it myself. You see what a blessing that is? You see what a blessing that is? My wife is just my best friend. I mean, he's right there. Same thing. You know, he is Mr. Talk Me Down Off the fucking ledge, if you want to be real about it. He is Mr. Take the gun out of your mouth, bro, if you want to be real about it. I've always been super thankful to this person, because this person, not on one occasion, really more occasions than I care to, than I can even remember. This man has stripped away his privilege. By the way, he's blonde hair and blue eyed. I say that from time to time. Tall, handsome. This man has stripped away his privilege on multiple occasions to advocate for me, to protect me, to go to war for me, to help me, to console me, to get me help that I need. It doesn't matter. And he doesn't fucking make any bones about it. And if you have questions about it, he might beat your ass. That's just who he is. That's just who he's always been since the fucking day I met him. He never passed, not once has he passed judgment on me. He is I say my wife is my biggest advocate, but she got a fucking, this guy, he gives her a good run for her money, man. Because he has been the biggest advocate I've ever had in my life. The biggest, hold your head up, man. And if you can't hold it up, I'll hold it up for you. In my life. Now, there's been some people. Definitely some honorable mentions. But this man right here, man. Some of the shit this person has sacrificed in his own life, his own well-being. He has sacrificed for me to make sure that I'm all right. He didn't have to do it. He didn't never have to do it. Doesn't have to do it now. But he has obligated himself for the duration of our relationship, which is damn near 40 years. And in turn, I'm his most loyal friend. I would do anything for him, because I really do feel that he is, one of a few people that would do anything for me. This motherfucker drove on New Year's Eve. He drove this was years ago, 5 hours. I called him. I was moving to Lake City, Florida in my Volkswagen Cabriolet. And I got to Lake City, South Carolina, and that shit broke down. I didn't have any fucking money, nothing. I called him up. I said, hey, man, I'm in Lake City, South Carolina. He said, what you doing there? Broke down. He said, he didn't say anything. He said, I'll call you right back. He called me back in a few minutes. He said, I'll be there in 5 hours. I didn't even have to tell him to come get me. The tough part about it was his wife was upset. He told his wife, I'll be back before midnight, before New Year's, I will be back. And he jumped in his car, and he did not look back. And he left. And this was early in their relationship. But she stayed also. And he came and got me. So that's a ride or die right there. You know what I'm saying? Just like my wife is a ride or die. My mama, we got issues. I got issues with my mom. But my mother, one thing she will always, if she knows something is gravely wrong, she just like all mothers should, she hops into mother mode. She will make me fucking chili. She will make me any dish I ask her for, anything, just to make me smile. She still calls me Scooter to this day. My mother's 78. She's fast. She's fast. You got to catch her or you're going to fucking miss her. And that's how she is. She lives her life like that. She ain't never in one place too long. And she doesn't always make time, and she hasn't always made time in her life for me. She's made time for other things around me, but she has not made that time always for me. In certain instances, I was neglected by her for things in the world. But I never didn't think my mother didn't love me. But as I got older, I understood situations and circumstance. And I also understood that my mother, she suffers as well from things. I learned that she was in a psychiatric facility in California where she was convinced that Jesus and John the Baptist, they was trying to break her out. Convinced. But she came to grips with that and understood that. She got help. And she actively tries to work on her issues. And I love my mom, and I'm always going to love my mom. And I forgive her. Because a lot of that is the reason why I have the issues that I have. A lot of the things that my mother and I, now, not to say that she was like a deadbeat mom, because that's the furthest thing from the truth. My mother she's got ADHD. Like severely, like super severely, you gotta grab her. If you need her to know something, you want to show her something, you gotta grab her hand and bring her to it. Cause you can't just be like, hey Ma, come here when you're done with that, because she's gonna forget that and she's gonna go do 10,000 other things before she remembers that you told her that you needed to tell her something. So in that, I started realizing that my mother, she's got issues too. And how can I be so angry and super judgmental of her? I can't be, because she suffers as well. So in that, I have compassion. I will let my mother know how I feel. But I understand what she suffers through as well. And like I said, my mother is love incarnate. She is just love, dripping with it. Listen, my mother does not greet people hello. If you say hello to my mother says to you, I love you. That's exactly what she says to every single person. So I did again realize that it wasn't personal. It was just something going on with her. My dad and I, we didn't have a great relationship growing up. It was abusive at times. But as I got older, I again began to realize that my dad was suffering as well. Now, when I was young, I didn't realize a lot of things, man. When you're young, you just don't fucking know. You form these opinions about your parents, but you don't fucking know until you get older and you try and internalize. And what it did, I turned myself around on my dad. And just started thinking about my life in comparison to the life that he was living at the time when, just things were falling apart in my life. And my dad's life was falling apart is what it was. My dad's entire life was coming undone. And I did not understand it. I was 7. It was coming undone, and he made a lot of rash decisions and bad choices. But my father is human, and he redeemed himself. My father's a noble person. He was brought up in the church. He's very stern. He was an educator for 40 years. He was the athletic director at that school. They made that movie called Lean on Me. And Joe Clark was my principal in my 10th grade year. But my father is very, very committed to children and the betterment of children and the furthering of the black race in our community without being racist towards any other community. He is just about embracing the love of ourselves, and I agree with that. But sometimes, in our past, he just got to the point where, he was frustrated with everything that was going on in his life. I remember one time I was young, I didn't understand, but all the lights, and it was cold because all the lights and everything, the heat and everything was off in the house. Couldn't pay the bills so he could pay the mortgage. But my father kept that house and held on to that house for the entire duration of the loan. He paid that house off. He struggled and he fought for that house, and he accomplished something after being devastated in his life. And, one day I was sitting at home with my wife. This is before we were married. And I was talking to her about my father and some of the things that he was living through and had gone through. And it just got me in the back of my throat. And I had to stop talking to her, and I called my dad immediately, and I had to thank him. And I had to thank him. And then I had to apologize to him, for some of the things that I was responsible for contributing in his life. Some of the heartache that he was suffering through, but still managed to hold it together enough to pay for mortgage for 30 years. I had to tell him I was sorry. But I also had to forgive him as well for some of the things that he did. But the one thing I will always say, the one thing about my father is, and I guess he was the OG right there. He was the OG caregiver, even though he was very stern. But he was the OG, because if there was anything that I was ever going through in my life, it didn't matter if I was, 7 years old or now that I'm about to be 55. And he always stopped everything he was doing. He dropped everything. If I said, "Hey, Dad, I got a problem," or, "Hey, Dad, I need to talk for a second," I don't care what it is. To this day, I don't care what he's doing. I don't care what he's doing. He'll drop whatever he's doing and turn into me all the way. "Yeah, Champ, what do you need? What's wrong? What's wrong, Champ?" He still calls me Champ. I'm 55. I'm still Champ. "What's wrong, Champ? You good? What's wrong?" And he doesn't talk over me. He listens to the whole problem. He doesn't respond right away. He thinks, and it marinates. And I will tell you, man, almost 100% of the time, 99.9% of the time, this man comes out of his mouth with the most eloquent shit. Uplifting, thought out, calculated answers and advice you ever got in your life. Just the utmost, and like he thinks about the same things. He's able to help you see because he sees, or like I said, what he went through and is now watching me go through. So it's really powerful to sit there and kind of put that together, because, my dad was, he was always Batman to me. He was always the strongest person that I knew, super strong. I couldn't match that. But, that's the way that he was. That's the way that he was. He's always been the strongest person that I know. He's always been able to absorb everything. But my dad came up in a time that he came up in the Jim Crow South, and there was nobody there really to absorb that for him. So a lot of it got transferred. And when you start learning and thinking about things like that, you start realizing that people made sacrifices, and they still make sacrifices to show you love and care, on an unconditional level. I could be, really in a depressive state, and there's really literally no way I can maintain that because my wife is like, hey, we got to switch that around. My mother's got something she's always wanted me to do, or come taste or something. My best friend is probably the funniest person I know. He would say that about me, but he's probably the funniest person. I don't know. My wife gives him a pretty good run for his money, though. Funny people. And there's just so many opportunities to do the wrong thing, but so many reasons to do the right thing. The people in your life that I don't know. I just want to say I'm thankful for the people that care. My kids are outstanding, and I didn't always have a dynamite relationship with my kids, or their mothers. And I'm going to go over that when I come back from this break. This is the Deron Harris Podcast. I'll be right back.
The Podcast Playground. Hooray!
Now, back to the Deron Harris Podcast.
Hey, y'all, welcome back to the show. I'm talking about caregivers this week on the podcast for Men's Mental Health Month. This is week number 3, and there will be one more podcast for men's mental health. Like I said, I'm talking about caregivers, and I was thinking the other day, and I write a lot. I'm a writer, and I chronicle everything. That's how I get my thoughts out. That's how I get everything out. I write. Sometimes I don't finish the writing. Sometimes I write it all down and I finish it. Wow. Da-da-da. But the other thing I was thinking about something, and I wanted to say something about the people who care. And hopefully you guys, I'm going to read it, and hopefully you guys will like it. And it's called To the Ones Who Stay. To the ones who stay, who hold our shaking hands and never let go, who know the silence means we're drowning, and still whisper, come up for air. Love, I'm right here. The ones who cancel plans to watch us fall apart in peace, who answer late night calls with, say less, man, I'm on my way. To the ones who learn our triggers, our patterns, our moods, like it's their favorite song. You are the rhythm we remember when our minds lose that beat. To the ones who stay, you are the reason we are still here. Thank you, a million times, thank you. And I mean that. You are the reason that we are still here. Because I can tell you on many occasions, had it not been for some of these people, I probably wouldn't be here. And, yeah. Excuse me, hold on. Man. If it wasn't for these people, if it wasn't for these people reaching out on random days to say that they love me, if it wasn't, for these people, just saying, hey, man, I'm going for a ride. You want to take a ride with me real fast? No, man. Come on, get up. Come on, take this ride. Those people. So what are the ways that people show up? What are these ways? I'm kind of emotional here, folks, if I'm kind of... So what are the ways that these people show up? Well, one is they protect your time and your peace. They remind you to eat. They remind you to rest. They remind you to hydrate. Take your medication. Smile. They take over parts of your life for you when you need space or you just don't want to deal with it. And that happens a lot. They go with whatever you have going on. If it's any kind of doctor's appointment, they want to be involved. My wife wants to be at every therapy appointment I go to. She wants to know. They make sure that you take your meds. Like I said, there's no not taking your medication here. we don't do that here. They speak gently when you need it. When you are raging. They validate your sadness. And they do that without like rushing you to be happy. They don't push you. Oh, well, get over it. They don't push you. They'll sit there with you as long as it takes. And they show up, and this is the most important part. They show up without needing any kind of applause or thank you. They just show up. They're the ones who stay. When so many people leave, so many people in my life have just left. So many people, when you're down, when you don't see a way out, when you're sitting in that place thinking that you're by yourself, so many people have left. So many people. But there are some that stay. And I'm thankful for every single one of them that I have in my life, and you should be too. So before I wrap this up, I want to take a moment to say to my wife, you are my anchor, my soft landing, man. You are my protector. I love you. To my mom, your love is louder than my darkest thoughts. And I mean that. I mean that, mother. I mean that. To my kids, you are the light that sneaks through the cracks. To my best friend and my producer, you're dick a lot to a lot of people. But you've always been great to me, man. And you are the voice that reminds me that my story matters. Thank you. And to the listeners out there, with somebody in your life who stays, take a minute today to tell them thank you. They don't always get flowers, But I'll tell you what, they deserve the whole fucking garden. Thank you for listening. I'm Deron Harris, and this is my podcast.
You've been listening to the Deron Harris Podcast. Subscribe to the show, give a good rating, and everything you need to know is at DeronHarris.com.